What I love about the topic of pitching is it actually provides this lovely window into a blogger's business, because in the process of helping bloggers refine and improve and make more effective their pitching, they learn so much about their businesses that they weren't aware of. And again, it actually taps into what I was just saying. It helps them uncover what their secret sauce is. So pitching becomes this really lovely framework for understanding your business that much better.
That was Casey Benedict. And today we're talking about becoming a pitching pro on episode 142 of the Chopped podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. Thanks for joining me today. I am your host, and this is the Chopped podcast. You know, this is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. My goal every week is to share with you thoughts, stories, interviews, everything related to food blogging so we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Before we get into today's show, I am tickled pink to tell you about our next webinar here at the Chopped Academy. Our first webinar was about SEO, and it was wildly popular. Everybody who participated gave it great reviews. I was so thrilled with that. We received so much positive feedback from participants who were able to use that content and create better SEO for their sites. I know I myself have reached personal milestones with my blog as a result of that webinar and the content provided by Casey Markey as well. So it was a great webinar, and now we're so excited to be offering our next webinar. Our guest speaker for this webinar is Thomas Basilovac, who was also a guest on the podcast back in episode number 129. And he is with the company Mashmetrics, and he has worked for over 15 years on Google Analytics specifically. And he's been working particularly with food bloggers as well, because guess what? There's so much more to Google Analytics than just looking at your page views and maybe even scrolling through and seeing where referrals are coming from. Thomas will be teaching you how to really understand Google Analytics and how you can use it to better understand things like time on page, where is your audience most engaged with your content, what pages are sending the most traffic your way, and how you can capitalize on all of that. And there's just so much more that's going to be a part of this webinar. And I know even just from personally working with Thomas, I've learned so much about Google Analytics and the ways that you can use it to, in business, we always talk about running your business by data. And of course, we're artists, right? So we have this artist side of food blogging, but there is also the data-driven aspects of it as well. And the more that you can be able to dive in and feel confident that you know what you're doing when you go into Google Analytics, that's the key. During this webinar, we'll even be showcasing a real food blogger site and provide examples of what you can look for in your own Google Analytics experience. If you've ever felt like you were underutilizing Google Analytics, and who of us haven't felt that way, and you wished you could find someone to explain it to you, someone who can use real, usable, understandable terms, maybe even someone who's had some experience with food bloggers too, right? Because you can go Google and look up information on how to understand Google Analytics. But the scary thing is, does it apply to food bloggers? And Thomas has been working with food bloggers, so he really understands, what we're dealing with and the things that we really need to know to make Google Analytics work best for us. This is a live webinar where you can participate with questions. You can participate and listen to other food bloggers who are asking questions, or you can ask them yourself of Thomas. We'll have plenty of time for that. It all happens on September 21st at 12 noon Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. You can buy your tickets today. I just want you to know it's a very short window that we have. This actually is happening on September 21st, so it's just a few weeks away. So do not delay. Go ahead and buy your tickets. We have early bird pricing going on right now. Go to chopped.academy/webinar, and you can buy your ticket today. Okay, on to today's show. Today I'm talking to Casey Benedict. Casey is the president of Kitchen Play, and I know you probably have heard of her before, or you've worked with her yourself. She was on the show before. Just if you'd like to go back and listen to her, she's on episode 80. You can hear Casey talking about successful business models for food bloggers. I've worked with Casey personally. She's been my business coach, and also I've been a part of some of her group coaching programs at Kitchen Play. I'm currently a part of her mastermind group, and I have found her advice to be inspiring, purposeful, and definitely very insightful. And that's why I was really excited to talk with Casey and share this with you today, because her topic is pitching. It may not sound like an exciting name, right? Pitching, but it is really the bread and butter for a lot of food bloggers. And there is so much involved with pitching. And when I say that, I am talking about the steps you actually have to take. You need to know your pricing and what you're offering. You also need to know your audience and so many things that go along with pitching, all the way down to what you're actually going to say in the body of the email that you're going to send out. But there's even more to it than that, because pitching is about you and how you feel about your business. In fact, I mentioned to Casey in the discussion today that sometimes I don't take myself seriously enough. I have to coach myself into my own work. Sometimes that means I keep detailed lists in my planner, and I follow that to a T, because it's so easy to get distracted, and we can easily burrow ourselves into these metaphorical rabbit holes, right? Where we're researching the best way to post something on Instagram, but that's a good thing to do. We want to know the best ways to post things on Instagram. But when you realize that you've been in that hole for an hour or something, you realize, okay, I'm spending a little too much time on this. Why is that? Is it because I'm procrastinating the work that I really need to do? And that's very possible. That's where my detailed list making has saved me time and time again. And I love putting that little check mark next to, send an email to so-and-so, or create recipe for chocolate cake, whatever. I mean, of course, everything should be about creating chocolate cake, right? That's always good. But like I say, I keep those detailed lists. It really helps me stay on track. But anyway, back to pitching. Pitching is a sign that you respect yourself and what you're doing. And I believe pitching is more than reaching out to brands too. When your neighbor asks you, what do you do? How do you answer that question? Do you kind of hem-haw around and kind of say it apologetically? I have definitely been in that case before. But what I'm learning lately is I put it out there with confidence. I am a food blogger. Yeah. That's how I feel about pitching. Even if you never decided to send a pitch to a brand, but owning your pitch, I think can be really worthwhile. So that's why I'm really excited to share this discussion with Casey today. She has worked with a lot of food bloggers, helping them through this pitching process. I think she's like a pitching pro at this point. It can change your business, which can change your life. So let's get straight to it. Here's today's feature interview with Casey Benedict. Today's guest is Casey Benedict. She's of the site Kitchen Play. It's a blogger network and a boutique marketing agency. Hey, Casey, welcome to the Chop Podcast.
Oh, Marley, thanks so much for having me. It's a delight to be back with you.
Well, I'm so glad to have you back. I mean, we had a great discussion last time, and I don't know, there's a part of me that thinks how important it is. People have to go back and listen to the previous one, but Casey, you really have a good business sense when it comes to food blogging in particular. And I just think this state of the art, or not, no, what am I thinking of? It's like a State of the Union address for food bloggers kind of thing.
I love it. How much time do you have? Because I have a lot to say about it.
Come on, all day, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm so glad to have you back on the show. And Casey, can you talk a little bit? I mean, people can go back to the previous episode and hear your full description. So if you could just kind of go over some highlights of what Kitchen Play is and your role with that.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you the highlight that I think is most important, which is 7-8 years ago, I fell in love with what food bloggers were doing. And it became my mission at that point to advocate for them and to get them paid. So basically, I set up an agency, a marketing agency, to connect bloggers with brands through high quality programming, because I really wanted to see this industry take off. I wanted to see my community of food bloggers that I just loved nurturing and being involved with succeed. And so Kitchen Play on the marketing side has really been successful in that way, in bringing brands to the table and partnering in these fabulous, mostly recipe development, but there's sometimes social media events, live events, all kinds of packages. But it always has been near and dear to my heart to support food bloggers, even as I'm working with brands and bringing them into the picture.
And one of my favorite stories about you and food blogging, Casey, is that
Uh-oh.
I mean, I don't know how many people still submit to Food Gawker and Taste Spotting, but
Right.
all of us have these stories to tell about how dejected that we felt, terrible we felt that
Right.
our photos have been rejected by Taste Spotting and Food Gawker, and then you came along and created the anti Food Gawker site.
I totally did. Yeah, taste stopping. So it was a
Yes.
play on the words. And that was my first foray into how can I, support food bloggers. And absolutely, I
Yes.
called it group therapy for food bloggers because
Yes.
I would take these rejected photos, give them funny, quirky headlines, and publish them. And just, I think it gave everybody a chance to just sort of relax around what was and still is a stressful profession or a stressful pursuit of trying to get eyeballs on your work.
Well, and I think part of what you did there is you kind of discovered the vulnerability that we all were feeling.
Yes.
And, it's vulnerable to submit your photo and then you get this big rejection, they don't like your lighting or whatever. And,
Right.
and so I think you tapped into that, this, vulnerable feeling that, we feel like we're not doing it right and other people are.
Oh, yeah, right. Because really, when you choose to blog about anything, but especially food, you really are putting yourself out there day after
Yes.
day. I mean, you're exposing all of your, strengths and challenges, and there's photographic evidence. If you ever look at your own blog 5 years ago or however long you've been, you go, ooh, boy, the things that I've learned and how far I've
Yes.
come. So yeah, absolutely. I tapped into the vulnerability. And again, hopefully, and I think this has proven to be true, but just connected with bloggers in that way of, I want to be an ally. I want to be an advocate. I want to support what you're doing. I don't care how crappy your photos are, send them my way and we're going to give them love and get eyeballs on them. And what I found, one of the reasons I launched Taste Stopping was because there was such a conversation already going on around that vulnerability and around the frustration and around the anger. So yeah, there was definitely a current there that I think continues to this day of just what's the secret sauce? What's the magic, the handshake? I want to know the secret
Yes.
handshake that everybody craves in our community. So yeah, it started way back then.
I wonder if you're like me, because that's one of the reasons I started this podcast is I really felt like there was some kind of secret handshake out there too. And it's taken me, 2 years of doing this podcast to realize like there's really no secret. It's just, because if you've seen one blog, you've seen one blog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I can look across the 10 most successful food blogs and go, this is the secret.
Right,
They
here's
all have
the
a different
formula.
pattern to success.
Yeah, right. There is no formula. Although, excuse me, although I will share that in my journey, which parallels what food bloggers go through, so my own journey to build my business, I believe there really is a secret sauce and a magic, words to whisper. But it's not a blueprint. It's not a formula. It's not copying what somebody else does. It's actually what we all have that we carry around inside us, which is good news and bad news, right? Because the good news is you've already got it. And the bad news is, well, why haven't I been accessing it? Or how do I get access to it? Or what does that mean for me going forward? But I really do believe that everybody, doesn't matter the industry, but everybody has something brilliant to bring to their communities, their readers, their audience, their clients. So the question is, how can you tap into that?
Yes, I love that. And so today we're going to talk specifically about one. I wrote a post a couple of years ago on what I consider to be the 3 business models for food bloggers. And I think there's probably even a 4th in there, but obviously you can search for advertising, and that's a high traffic model. You can do sponsored posts, and that I think requires a lot of engagement and sales skills. And then there's also, some freelancing work that food bloggers can take on, writing for other sites or things like that. So we're going to talk specifically about one of those models, and that is pitching, because if you're going to get sponsored posts, you really need to be able to pitch yourself to brands.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I love about the topic of pitching is it actually provides this lovely window into a blogger's business, So I like to drill down and be really specific about pitching, using the topic of pitching, because in the process of helping bloggers refine and improve and make more effective their pitching, they learn so much about their businesses that they weren't aware of. And again, it actually taps into what I was just saying. It helps them uncover what their secret sauce is. So pitching becomes this really lovely framework for understanding your business that much better.
And one of the things I love about that, Casey, is that I think if I look at myself through the eyes of when I first started my blog, I was just thinking I could put content out there and then, the money would start coming. I didn't really think about and here I am with this business degree, but, I didn't really think about, the model of the way the money comes in. And so I love this because it makes people kind of think about this. Like, I got to create almost like a business plan. How am I going to make money off of this?
Yes. And the other part of that, like the other side to that coin is not only, and I'm going to just, generalize about bloggers, but again, this happens in lots of industries. Not only do we go into it a little bit naively because we're sharing our stories and our recipes and our photos, but then there becomes this interesting conflict around, wow, I'm actually going to make money off of being vulnerable. I'm going to make money off of putting myself out there. And woof, that can be a real challenge. How do I, or I just wanted to have fun with this. How dare I make money off of something that is, my grandmother's recipes that I just wanted to share, or I just started out as a hobby blogger. So that's why I say even just that initial look into how are you pitching? How is it feeling for you? What are you doing on a regular basis can tell you so much about someone's attitude or someone's blocks that they may have around actually making money with their blogging. So there's so much, it's so juicy.
It is very juicy. And it still goes, I've heard this quote a little while ago and I just absolutely love it. And it says, entrepreneurship is the modern day journey of self-discovery.
Oh, for sure. You have to be ready. You have to be ready to grow. You have to be ready to take deep dives on. There's no such thing, I think, when you're an entrepreneur, there's no such thing as, okay, I've got my personal life over here and I've got my business life over there. They, by their very nature, combine. Otherwise, you'd be an employee where you can clock in and clock out. And it's somebody else's business. But when it's your business, you definitely bring your personal backstory experience, for better or worse. But it is a people growing experience.
Where I sense it the most is when, okay, let me tell you the story, Casey. Mm-hmm. I have worked from home for a lot of other people, and doing their work is easy for me. I'm just so organized and so on top of it. And then I have found doing work for myself at home can be a little bit of a struggle. And I think that points to what you were just saying, that like, do I find my direction? In other words, if I look at myself as the leader of the work that I'm doing, and then as the worker following that leader, I think I don't respect myself as leader as much as I should.
There's daily mutinies going on.
Yes, exactly.
It's true, right? And there's the rub of, boy, am I really a leader? Like, who am I kidding? And do I belong here? Whereas when it's somebody else's work, it's really easy to validate it and say, yes, they need this by this time.
Right.
And I have, I don't need to even buy into their project because they're paying me. That's the buy-in. Uh-huh. So when it's your own project, whether or not there's a paycheck attached, it can be, am I buying into? There's a lot. There's layers there. That's really a great example of how it all scatters. It all becomes, very scattered when it's your own, and you can start to see how the personal mindset that you bring to it, that you've developed over years and not been aware of, can suddenly wreak havoc with your business.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, you actually challenged me last year. You were a business coach to me, just like on a one-on-one, couple of one-on-one sessions, and really helped me a lot. In fact, as a result, I've hired a virtual assistant, and that has helped me tremendously to kind of ease myself into that leadership role. I mean, I have been a leader in a company before, but I can't get over the difference it is when you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And that's why, going back to your quote, the entrepreneurship really is about, it's a growth It's an
Yes.
invitation for growth. It just,
Yes.
because it all comes down to you, your decisions, your gut instinct, your ability to delegate, your, the self-talk you've got going on, all of those things mix into this wonderful stew. And so I'm
Yes.
glad I challenged you, and
Yes.
you took the challenge, and it's been working for you, because that's one of the best things you can do is put yourself out there as a leader
Yes.
by
And I also
delegating.
just think it's just impossible to do everything related to food blogging, and to ask that of yourself is too much. And
It
so
is.
there's a couple of benefits. One, it helps me stick to the things that I love more rather than things I don't love, and hire other people to do that. And then also it teaches me to be a leader of my own business. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Win-win.
Yes.
Love
So
to
no,
hear
we
that.
were talking about pitching. I don't know how we got off into that, but I love talking with you about business, Casey.
Well, that's the thing. That's what's lovely about pitching, is it really does have all these, tentacles, for lack of a better word, where it reaches into all aspects of your business. And it can be a litmus test or a thermometer on how you're feeling in different places in your business. So it doesn't surprise me that just the word pitching would send us off, on one direction that might be unexpected, but it all matters. It all comes back to the same package.
Absolutely. And so, you have been coaching people and running programs on pitching for food bloggers for a while. So I'm just curious what you have noticed. If I don't want you to mention any names in particular,
Yeah.
but as you've been working with people, what are the trends, or is there a trend that you're seeing that causes people to not pitch?
Oh, for sure. And that's what's so interesting about the very act or thoughts about pitching. Just with everything in our lives, the biggest stumbling block is fear. But fear comes in different flavors. So for one person, the fear might actually be a result of the tremendous amount of overwhelm that you feel when you think about pitching. I've got to write letters. I've got to maintain those, contacts and figure out how to track them. And then I have to, I need to know my pricing and what am I even going to pitch? And why bother? So it sort of becomes this like, it's so much to manage. I'm just going to set it aside for another day.
Right.
And then it can become, more granular, like certain aspects of pitching will tie people up. So somebody could have the best pitch letter written, ready to go, but because they don't yet really fully understand their pricing, they haven't settled on their pricing, or they don't really know what products and services they want to offer to a potential client. Mm-hmm. That pitch letter, even though it doesn't need those pieces, will sit and sit and sit because the person who's in control of sending it is uncertain about 5 steps down the line what it's going to look like. Other bloggers have sort of they're subject to these myths in pitching that they need their numbers, their traffic to be a certain level before they are allowed to pitch. Some it's just fear of rejection. You don't want to put yourself out there and hear no. And again, part of that is just not understanding your business and your process well enough, and not knowing business and sales well enough to realize that it's not as random as you think. Getting a yes or getting a no you have a lot more control over that than you think as a blogger. So those are a couple of things that bloggers run into. I would say the first feels like just this general overwhelm. I just don't even know. How do I get over the hump of just starting to send out, because it requires so much energy. And then when I dig into that, usually it becomes, well, it's about my pricing. Well, it's about my numbers. Well, I don't know what my niche is. So there are these specific fears or unknowns, this confusion that once addressed, all of a sudden that roadblock of just getting started seems to melt away. And it's really fascinating how that happens.
It is fascinating. And I think it all leads to me at least, is confidence in yourself. But I don't think you can force confidence, right? Like, you and I play tennis, so we can talk about that as a great analogy. Like, I can't force myself to feel confident on the tennis courts. I have to practice, and that makes me feel more confident.
Not only do you have to practice, but using that analogy, I'll say this: I'm not confident in a match until maybe the third or fourth game, right?
Yes.
Because then I know what I'm doing. Like I've been on the court for a little bit, and the practice helps you get comfortable with, sort of the physical aspects of it and the mindset around it. And then actually doing it in a real, like this is a live situation. You have to even just be vulnerable, put yourself out there again and again, because you'll learn each new time you do something like that, whether it's pitching or tennis. Once you put yourself out there, you learn and you get quicker at being more confident sooner in the game or in the process. But you're right. It isn't just about going onto the court willy-nilly. You've got to practice the strokes. You've got to practice your serve. You've got to pay attention to all the parts of your game. And that's a perfect analogy for pitching, because there are more parts. So the word pitch sounds like this vague, blanket term, when really there are so many layers, so many parts to it, that when a blogger who wants to refine their pitching understands that, it's, sort of like unwrapping that secret weapon again, that secret handshake. Oh, you mean I need to understand my niche better. And oh, you mean I need to create an avatar for my audience. So there are all these deeper dives you can take, and suddenly pitching becomes less general, broad, and overwhelming, and more controllable, manageable, and confidence comes along with that.
Yeah. And, I think another thing that you suggested to me, which was really helpful, which is to basically kind of refine the package that I'm offering, which means that I am offering less. So in other words, maybe before I thought my pitch might have included video or photography and this and that. And, I think at some point you suggested to refine that down, like figure out what I really love doing. Do I really love the photography, or do I really love the video? And then let that be part of my pitch, so that, when they come to me, they kind of have a pretty good idea of what I'm offering as well.
Yeah, I think a great way to think about that, or a great way to frame it, is to think about doctors and their specialties. And when you as a patient have a need, as clients often do, it makes it so much easier when the doctor or the practice is clear about, oh, well, we do, sports injuries, or we take care of heart, disease. Yes. We do joint replacements. We do plastic surgery. It just saves everybody so much time and energy. And again, on the blogger side of it, it can feel, scary on many levels. And that goes into sort of the idea of niching and the idea of even how you treat your audience. So to back up a little bit, for me, a good pitch letter, which is usually the first initiation. It's the thing that gives people heart palpitations. I'm going to send out a pitch letter, because we're not calling anymore. That might come into play later on. We might meet somebody at an event, a live event. So there's an introduction there, but still the follow-up always ends up coming in an email. Yes. And so that's where people fret and, oh my gosh, what's the right subject line? And oh, what do I write? And they're writing these epic, long novels of emails, because they're not sure what to do. How do I actually write this pitch letter? So to simplify, a really great pitch letter, you need to understand 4 things: niche, audience, products and services, and pricing. So when I was saying to you, sort of refine your products and services, that's one place where you can get control over your pitch process, because again, you could be known for video, you could be known for your social media outreach, you could be known for your sponsored posts, you could be known for how you combine those things innovatively, you could be known for your audience, so if you come at a prospective client with this sort of cannonball or this buckshot approach of, I can be everything to your every need, it's overwhelming to them. Yeah. So now you've just transferred the overwhelm you're feeling into overwhelming a prospective client. And I guarantee they won't respond to that, because they don't know how to. They're too busy. It doesn't help them say yes to you. So all of those pieces, the niche, the audience, the products, and the pricing, the more clarity you can bring to the table, the more impactful your pitches will be. And the flip side, the scary part is, but I'm going to lose some brands in the process. I'm not going to serve all the brands. Well, hello, that is actually good. That's part of the
Yes.
process. You can't serve everybody. You'll just be spinning your wheels if you're trying to. So overall, I would say one of the myths that I run into with bloggers is the feeling that the pitching process or the pitching back and forth with brands is completely out of their control. And it's really not. There's so much you can do to position yourself and put yourself in a really great place, both with your copy, your clarity, how you roll out the process of pitching. There's just many facets to it. So it's a much more manageable and malleable process than people realize, but you have to be willing to step up and do the deep dives on your different areas, the audience, the niche, the pricing, the products. Be willing to stand strong in the face of nerves around, but I'm going to lose some people. But it's there. There's gold in them, their hills, if the food bloggers will, take my advice and approach it in a methodical, careful way.
Yes, I love that. In fact, knowing your niche really can expand to a lot of things too. Like you want to know your niche as far as your audience is concerned. And I think what I'm hearing you say is knowing your niche as far as the services that you can offer.
Yes. And so let me clarify a little bit, because in that first process of writing pitch letters and outreach, I'm suggesting that there are 4 essential components: the niche, audience, products, and pricing. So niche would be, here's my specialty. Here's what I offer. In the case of doctors, let's say it's, okay, I'm an osteopath. I'm a cardiovascular specialist. I'm a dentist or a pediatric dentist. So niching has some certain levels to it. Most bloggers, I will find, want to remain in the generalist category, and they point to maybe successful bloggers who have really, really huge blogs, that they are generalists. And I will tell you, and I only just realized this recently, bloggers who have been in it for 7, 10, 15 years, they do have a niche, and their niche is longevity. That's something that we can't recreate.
Yes.
So our niche has to be more intentional. So, vegan, gluten-free, paleo, busy moms, millennial cooking, there are niches and then sub-niches, and you can do quite a bit of fine-tuning within those types of niches.
Right.
But then when you think about, what audience am I serving? That helps refine your niching a little bit, because you have to think about, who cares? Who's coming back to this? How am I serving them? What resources and tools? What voice am I using? What's my style to hook them in? Same again with products and services. Now, products and services in this realm, in a pitch letter, is really about what you're offering a client and a brand. But it bears thinking about, when you think about your audience and your readers, what are you giving them? You're giving them recipes. Are you giving them humor? Are you giving them permission to be imperfect? Are you giving them downloads? Are you curating your recipes at different times of the year so they don't have to go searching through and find all of your Halloween themed recipes? Are you doing that for them? So there's lots of ways that you are offering products and services to your audience as well. And then pricing, again, we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that, but that's crucial just so it's not a roadblock for you in your pitching. But then, Marley, what happens is it's like this Venn diagram. When you have your niche really clearly identified, when you have your audience really clearly fleshed out in your head, and when you have your products and services that you offer that either the niche, either your audience or your clients, what starts to happen is you are positioning yourself. And positioning is even a deepening. It's how all those things come together. And if I were to take that analogy again to the medical field, here's how it would look. If you have a person suffering from heart disease who wants treatment, they could go to a medical specialist, and the medical specialist would say, we're going to do surgery, and we're going to put some stents in, and we're going to open up your arteries, and we're going to use the best technology we have and the best care in the best hospital and eradicate your heart disease through surgical intervention. And then you might have a homeopathic specialist who would say, we're going to actually approach this a different way. We're going to approach your heart disease with yoga and breathing exercises and visioning. And we're going to treat your whole body. So I'm going to find out what's going on with you from head to toe. And then you might run into maybe a nutrition fitness expert who says, we're going to treat heart disease by changing your diet.
Yes.
And we're going to get you on a treadmill and we're going to get you walking, get you breathing. So each of those is sort of addressing the same set of circumstances, heart disease, but they're doing it in radically different ways. And as you can tell, they're also going to be addressing radically different audiences, because there's a certain generation of people that are going to be like, put me on the operating table.
Yes.
Let's get this over with. I trust my doctor.
Yeah.
And there are people that are going to say like, whoa, spare the knife. And I'm going to walk and do this I'm going to treat myself through the medicine called food. And there are others who are like, ooh, this is, a mindset, lifestyle issue, and I can change it through my behaviors and modifying how I, deal with my body in the world. So niche, audience, and the products all start to sort of beautifully shift together once it's like bringing one into focus helps bring the other one into the focus. And then when you bring that one more into focus, they all have to be in focus, like binoculars. You can't have one lens out of focus and the other one looks great. They both have to be in focus. So in this case, all three have to be in focus. And then you've got positioning, which is super powerful. So I hope didn't go too deep on it, but that's, where I come from, that it really is in your control and it's in your best interest. You'll serve your audience 1,000 times better than you do right now if you're not paying attention to all these different components of your business and your pitch.
I love that. So this is kind of like going back to your earlier point, is that pitching kind of helps you refine, so much of what you're doing in your business. And as a result, what you're providing your audience gets better as well. Yes.
It's a lovely paradigm shift. It's a lovely, like the way everything is interconnected is just as it should be. I mean, it's just a really lovely way to access, a deeper understanding of your business and a deepening of how you can serve your audience through deeper clarity on these points.
And another thing I love about that too is it seems like as a result of that, you would be working with brands that are very aligned with what you're doing for your audience anyway. I mean, as a result of this process.
Here's what happens. So the initial fear around, like, let's take niching. Okay, if I niche too specifically, I'm going to lose part of my audience. And that is absolutely true, because say you're right now a generalist trying to serve everybody, but you really love the vegan niche.
Yeah.
Well, as a generalist, now vegan might be a tough one because there's not a lot of, it's sort of black and white in terms of what you can post. But say you cross post to other people's meat-filled dishes. So you're bringing in an audience who's mildly resonating with your passion of veganism. So as soon as you start to get clarity and take that risk of being more visible in that niche that really resonates with you, that really is your passion. So you start peeling away. You're not cross-posting anymore. You're not mentioning meat anymore. You're not even doing vegetarian dishes. Like, you're going to go right to the heart of the vegan lifestyle. Yes, of course, you're losing people who were never meant to be there in the first place. Yes. They're never going to align with you in the first place. And it makes room for you to more effortlessly attract people who are going to really be sparked by your passion for vegan cooking and vegan foods and what delight you can bring to the table through using a vegan lifestyle as your lens.
Yes.
So it's great actually to repel people. Then you've got this engaged audience. And P.S., then you know exactly how to serve them. Because there's no confusion about, am I doing a meat dish today? I don't really love that, but it's like, oh, these are my people. I'm hearing them. They're hearing me. It's just, there's a whole different energy there. Now, the other way this works is, like you said, with brands and clients, prospective clients. Same thing. If you're doing, and you mentioned this with your products and services, if you are offering the full menu, Think about going to a diner with the 10-page menu.
I know.
It's so overwhelming.
Yes.
Like, yeah, the benefit is, okay, they have something for everybody. None of it is well cooked.
Yes.
None of it is particularly tasty or healthy or, it's just it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So if instead you're going to this bistro, this, specific eatery that caters to fill in the blank, whatever kind of food style you like, do you see how it's lighter? It's like, oh, I don't have to sift through 10 pages of all this crazy stuff. I know what I'm going there for. I know what I'm going to order. I know it's going to be well done because that's what they specialize in. So you actually, in both instances, whether it's your audience or prospective clients, the more clarity you have about who you serve, the more you actually magnetize them. Not just it's easier to pitch them, it is, but they start finding you. They start showing up on your doorstep. One of the women that I worked with, we just did a case study that I'll be sharing on my Facebook page coming up. So she was afraid to niche down into the kosher field, even though that's all she did was but she was sort of afraid to embrace it. She found that once she embraced it and really embodied it, it let her rise to the top of that industry, like that subset niche, but it made her an expert also. So kosher brands already know who she is. She doesn't have to go through her whole spiel. She doesn't have to introduce herself.
Yes.
They know who she is. So it really behooves all of us to have that kind of clarity, because with clarity comes power. And again, the power is where it's at. That's what helps you create the pitch process that you want and create success with brands that you want.
It must be counterintuitive then, huh? That this idea of owning an area of expertise, I think we have a tendency to resist that because I think we do feel like we're gonna get so stuck in a hole. But in reality, there's just a lot of freedom in that. It's so surprising.
Absolutely. And if you think about the big bloggers that are the generalists that are, at the cream of the crop and, making the big money and all that we sort of envy and say, oh, that's my goal. We're not going to be able to do that because, like I said, their niche is longevity. Their niche is starting 10 or 15 years ago and getting solidified ad revenue that's not any place. There's no foothold in that market anymore. So instead of trying to be the big dog, in this huge bubble, make it a smaller bubble, make it a smaller pond so you can be the big fish in that smaller pond. It really takes the weight off. Now, it also comes with its own, baggage. So because now you're going to need to be more visible. Now you're going to need to say that you are an expert in that niche.
Yes.
And who among us has had, who's gone through vegan certification? Who's gone through the gluten-free certification? Most times what we've done is we've lived it.
Yes.
And we don't, always have the resources to say, because I've lived it, I'm the expert you need to go to. So that's then another layer in that process. But that's where the entrepreneurial lifestyle is building you as a person.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so the 4 steps in your pitching process, can you name them again?
Yes. So these are the 4 essential components for any effective pitch letter. You need to be clear, crystal clear on these 4. Your niche, your audience, your products, and your pricing. Now, it doesn't mean that those 4 are going to be going into every pitch letter you write, because it depends on the type of pitch letter. So there are different themes of pitch letters. There's introductory pitch letter, there's an exploratory pitch letter, and then there's an offer pitch. So it really depends on where you are in the process of pitching. But if you don't have those nailed down, if you only have 2 or 3, that lingering, 1 or 2 subjects that you're not clear on, they will hold you back from getting the pitches out the door, from being consistent, and from finding success. So just get clarity on those, crystal clear focus and intentionality around those 4. Then writing and sending the pitches will be that much easier.
And I assume when you're talking about audience, what you're talking about is knowing the demographics of who your audience is. And that's so easy to acquire on things like Google Analytics.
It's demographics. It's also psychographics. So the demographics, I agree with you. It's how old are they? What level of education? What gender?
Yeah.
Where do they live in the world?
Yes.
So I can explain it this way. The psychographics are going to be, what's in their head, what's keeping them up at night, what do they struggle with, what do they find relief in, how do they relax? So that makes a really full picture, because demographics are great. That's the sort of the outside picture.
Yes.
Then we want to go inside.
How do you get psychographics?
Well, I think it's a twofold process. So I think it's looking at the data of who comes to your site, how they engage with you, what questions they're asking,
Yes.
what posts do the best. And then I think it's also deciding, right? Deciding, for instance, in the heart disease sort of example I gave, a person who's offering nutrition, exercise, lifestyle adjustments needs to have an audience who is maybe terrified of doctors, or is eschewing, sort of like, I'm not going to go through traditional, I'm not just going to let somebody cut me open just to cut me open. That's a last resort. Somebody who in their mind wants the nutrition lifestyle, is dedicated to making changes from the inside out. So you have to, that's again where this lovely interplay between niche, audience, and products gives you your positioning. You need to know what you want to offer.
Yes.
How do you want to be a resource?
Yeah.
And what are those people going to be staying up at night thinking about that will make you a good fit for them? What's waking them up? What's causing them to lose sleep? That's it. And it's funny, because as food bloggers, we don't often think like that. We don't often think that our work is that groundbreaking maybe, or that life-changing. So, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't have to be cancer research or, saving the world per se. All you have to do is impact somebody's life through your work. I think about it in terms of this struggling mom who's got 4 kids. They're all in school in different activities.
Yes.
She's running around crazy. You may offer quick weeknight recipes, but you do it with humor, and you do it by letting yourself off the hook, because you've been there, done that, and you know that the wheels fall off the wagon regularly.
Yeah.
So that mom may not actually be looking for weeknight meals. Like, that's what she Googles.
Yes.
That's the external problem. How do I find quick, for my chicken? We're sick of chicken. What's a quick, easy? So she finds you that way. But what's keeping her up at night is, I am going to drop the ball. I cannot possibly keep this going. I'm a sham as a mother. Who gave me these children to look after? Because I can't do it.
Yeah.
And, and she tries to share it with her husband or her partner. And that person is like, what are you talking about? Nobody can't, we're all fine. Let me go back to sleep, or something. So they're up at night feeling really alone over this. And they come to your site, and sure, you've got the quick chicken recipe, and you also share how you burned the chicken the last time. And your youngest was like boycotting dinner from then on, or, all when the ship is sinking, and you're sharing that in your blog post. You're addressing those internal needs that she's never going to Google, but she's your ideal audience because she needed somebody to say, I'm imperfect too. Let's go on this ride together. Here's a frickin' chicken dish. But in the meantime, you and I are going to bond over the fact that life stinks sometimes, and we're going to mess it up, and it's all okay.
I love that.
Yeah. So blogging to me gets the short end of the stick a lot in terms of how people view it, and how people, even bloggers themselves, what they think they have to offer. And I promise you, there are people out there searching for, whoever's listening to this, whatever your blog niche is, there are people in this world searching for you, searching for your perspective, searching for your wisdom. So keep at it, but do those fans and that audience, give them the biggest gift you can, which is to take yourself and your work seriously enough to dive deep like this, to really get clear, really step up for them, show up with your content or with your photos or with your social media or however you're connecting. Take yourself seriously enough to show up and really be authentic, and everybody wins. It's a full on sort of catalyst for everybody benefiting in the world.
Ah, I love it. As you were talking, I came up with this little thing. I think you could make this your slogan for your next campaign, which is niche to pitch to get rich.
Oh, I love it. I'm writing it down.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I love this discussion. I love because when I say the word rich, I'm not just talking about money either. I'm also talking about the richness that comes from like what you were just saying, where you are so engaged with your audience. I know that for me, when I get that feedback from somebody that loved a recipe or whatever, there's just like, I could probably live all day on that feeling. It's so great.
Yes, I agree. And when you said the word rich, I felt the same thing, that there's such richness, such wealth, such abundance to be received when you show up to do your work.
Yes.
And the financial piece will definitely be part of that, but it's going to be even more layered and more depth to it than you can imagine.
Right.
When
there's such a reward in following your passion too, and knowing yourself and knowing, I could tell the difference in myself when I'm blogging and I have that sense of purpose. It does feel very rewarding. So my hope is that everybody will get that feeling as well.
Yes. Yeah, I hope so. It's what holds most of us in the industry back in any business that we're trying to build. But it's easily solvable. And like I said at the top of this interview, the answers are already inside us. Like we carry them with us. So it's about unlocking them.
I love it. Okay. So now we were talking about training, and I know that you've got some kind of pitch training coming up. Can you talk about that?
I do. So I'm really excited because in later this fall, let's say, because I don't know when this will air. So in a few weeks, I'm going to be opening up the membership that I've been developing for the past, it's evolved over the past 3 years. So it's a membership site that's been open for 3.5 years or been available. But over the last year, I've spent a lot of time refining and taking my own advice and niching down to this topic of pitching. So I niched to pitch because I know that pitching provides such a lens to view your whole business.
Yes.
So it's called Pitch Power Pro, and it's open to all bloggers, all culinary professionals, really anybody who wants to take their pitching to a new level, pitch to get rich in more ways than one, and are just having trouble getting started. So it's for new bloggers who are, maybe they started out being hobbyists, or like you, I want to put all my content out there and I know it'll be so fabulous that the money will just start pouring in, but maybe that hasn't happened yet. So they're not monetizing their blogs yet, but they want to. And it's also for experienced bloggers who are monetizing, but they realize, oh my gosh, this is kind of a rat race. Like it's really hard to manage and maintain all the things that need to be maintained in a business. This membership also will help them balance and streamline and get to what's important, start making more money from more effective, focused pitching rather than this all over the map. I'm going to just be a generalist. So it's really going to be a membership site we're going to offer expert videos. We're going to offer deep dives on a range of different topics, which I can tell you about in a minute. We're going to do mindset, which you know what mindset looks like, Marley, and a lot of mindset we've talked about in this interview, but mindset is usually what separates, we get to a certain point with our businesses and we say, I'm doing all the same things, but nothing's working anymore. It's usually not what you're doing. It's what you're not doing. It's the mindset piece that you need to shift gears and try something new in your business. So we're going to do mindset, and we're going to do case studies of members who have had success pitching and, sort of take it apart. Dissect it. What did you do? How did it work? What was that? What did that feel like? Was it scary? How did you get over the fear? And what was the result? And our topics that we're going to be discussing throughout the year are pitching, positioning, pitching meaning pitch writing. So it's pitch writing, positioning, products, processes, and pricing. And then the 6th P is putting it all together. So it's a really robust program with lots of support, lots of engagement between members, because there's a lot to handle here. There's a lot. And if you can do it in an environment where you're held accountable, it's curated, it's paced out for you, it's a system. It's kind of like a course, except it's a membership. So it's at your pace. It doesn't have to happen in 6 days or 6 weeks. You can take the material in as you need and as your schedule allows. But it's structured so that you'll have success and you'll move through the stages of your business from hobbyist to pitch professional into even beyond pitching well, which is to growing your business in ways that you want. So there's that. But leading into that, I do have a free workshop coming up on September 19th. And again, I don't know if this will air, so you'll just chop this part out. Yeah. But on September 19th, I have a free workshop that I'm starting. It's a 4-part workshop where we're going to talk about all of these things that I just discussed with you, the pitch, audience, products, and pricing, how those things go together for positioning, where mindset fits into this. So I'm really excited about that because, again, I know that it's the information that our industry needs right now. Yes. Because so many people are feeling stuck. They're comparing themselves to other bloggers who are having success. The bloggers who are having success are feeling like, oh my gosh, can I keep this up? It's not sustainable. So I've got the solution, the 4-part workshop first, and then a membership site for those who are ready to really invest in themselves and get the support they need and the accountability they need to move forward.
I just want to point out another reason why I think this is so important, Casey, and that is I feel like we're kind of, if we think about it, we're pitching all the time, whether we're pitching to a brand or whether it's, a new neighbor that we just met that says, oh, what do you do? If you say without confidence what you do, I'm a food blogger, rather than I'm a food blogger and I specialize in, I feel like, if you're one of the things that people will learn from going through this process is really have a passion for what they're doing and how they can share that with just everybody.
Yes. And how, all of us have that passion.
Yes.
And we don't know how to articulate it.
Right.
We don't know how to articulate it in a way that hits the person listening in the right way. And I agree with you. And it's such an interesting and worthwhile exploration. But this is where I say people have to be ready to step up and own that, like to own that journey, to say, you know what, I'm going to go from I'm passionate and sort of fumbling with how to connect with people around my passion to I'm passionate and I now know what the best words are for me to use, what the best introduction is for me to get people hooked on what I'm doing and want to know more. So I agree with you. I think, and it's, it takes a certain amount of self-awareness and a certain amount of willingness to take risks to step into that place and say, I want to master this.
Yes, exactly. It's one part of the business and it definitely has, huge potential for the success that you can have, for your blog. Like you say, you can start out as the hobby blogger and move forward. That's great.
Well, and the other thing is, if you get the right support, which is what I'm offering, which is what I'm putting together, you actually can navigate and avoid a lot of costly mistakes, a lot of wasted time, a lot of frustration, because you're learning from me, and this is what I've had to do with my own business, and you're also learning from other people in your industry who are going through it at the same time. I almost can't put a price tag on how invaluable it is, how priceless it is to be given that blessing of, oh, no, don't do that. I did that. Yes. Stop that right away. Don't even go down that road. Yeah. Let's bypass that. Let's jump right over that hurdle. That can pay you back so many more times than you realize, rather than struggling it out alone, trying everything out from scratch yourself. You might as well go into a system that's going to guide you and keep you away from some of the more costly, in terms of time, money, and energy, those costly mistakes.
This is great. So Pitch Power Pro, that's the name of it.
Yes, pitchpowerpro.com. We are in the process of setting up the website right now. The doors will open later this fall, and we only open the doors twice a year. So it's a very limited, because I want to focus on the members. I want to focus on getting them what they need, nurturing them through this learning process, this journey. So only twice a year. And in the meantime, I do have this workshop going up. And what I can do is, shoot you a link to add once, you can add whenever you want for people to click on, or however you want to do that. But I don't, it's one of those long email addresses or website addresses, and I wouldn't know it offhand as far as signing up for that free workshop, that free 4-part workshop.
Well, we can put the link in the show notes page, right?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's great.
Pitch Power Pro, if somebody knows they're interested right now, do they, is there a way they can sign up for a waiting list or just wait until the site comes available?
There is. So I can give you a temporary wait list, which is www.kitchen-play.com/bloggers, BLOGGERS. So that's our standard waitlist page, and it will register you. Right now, it will register you for the workshop as well as put you on our waitlist for all information for Pitch Power Pro. And yeah, so that's the best place to sign up for that and keep receiving information on how to be informed. I also have a freebie, a pitch template freebie. I don't know if you want to offer that to your audience, but I'd be happy to. And again, that is kitchen-play.com/free pitch letter. And I'm actually going to make sure that I've got that right because I've got a lot of websites running around in my head. So .com free pitch letter.
Is free pitch letter all one word, or is there hyphen between the letters?
No hyphens, free pitch letter, all one word. And it will take you to a template where you, not a template, but a sign up page where you can sign up to have me send you a free pitch template. It's fill in the blank. So you go ahead and just put your information in and send it, away you go. There's also a pre-written template so that you can see what a pitch looks like when it's all fleshed out. So you have something to measure, like, okay, what am I supposed to say here? And then there's a video that explains those 4 critical components: niche, audience, products, and pricing. So it really helps get you started on the pitch letter writing process.
Well, and I just want to say, I signed up and purchased your pitch process last year, and I found it to be really helpful. I mean, like I say, even from the perspective of whether you pitch or not, you have to go through this thought process about the work that you're doing, and I found that to be very helpful. And I followed some steps afterwards, and we created a work with us page and kind of refined the things that we're offering, things like that. So I'm also a part of Casey's mastermind group, and I found that to be, I mean, Casey, you just provide such great information, and I just think sometimes we get so far into our own heads that it's just helpful to be a part of a larger group and to talk and I don't know, it kind of expand our way of thinking about what we're doing.
Yes, I agree. And thank you for those kind words. That just means so much to me. And I agree. Blogging by its nature is a somewhat isolating profession.
Yes.
And there are some, it's nice to have a food blogger group that you go to on Facebook and check in with those people.
Yeah.
But when you surround yourself with other members of your community who are investing in themselves the same way that you are and taking themselves seriously on the level that you are, the game changes. So it is really important to surround yourself with those smart, talented, driven people who are taking it to the next level. Mm-hmm. I can't overstate enough how beneficial it is to our own progress and sense of accomplishment to have that support and have those people reflecting back to you what you're doing and how you're doing it, and call you on, your stories that you're telling yourself or whatever you might need. I'm glad you found it helpful because I just think it's, like I said, it's a game changer.
Well, and the other thing I think of is like, if your child was wanting to get better at, they came home and said, "Hey, I want to be a soccer player. I want to play in high school or in college or whatever." I think there would be nothing we would do. I mean, nothing to stop us from doing everything we could to help our child, right? Like we would try to get them in every course and get them a coach, all of these things. And yet when we have our own interest, I think sometimes we have a tendency to put those aside. So I feel like it's really good advice to treat yourself as, with that same kind of, what can you do? Like pull all the stops and say, let's do this. Let's make this happen.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. We're so hard on ourselves as adults. If we don't learn things the first time, we don't give ourselves a chance to practice. And I totally agree. I think it's a nice way to frame what I'm trying to do is that it gives you that safe space to grow, to challenge yourself, to learn, to ask questions, and to be amongst people who are doing the same thing.
Yes. So Casey, if people want to interact with you online, how do they do that?
Oh, there's lots of places. So I think the best, I would invite them all to join the free Facebook group I have going. It's called the Pitch Power Pro. I think if you just probably Google Pitch Power Pro, not Google, but Facebook search Pitch Power Pro, you'll come up with that particular group. It is a closed group, but just, if you ask to be admitted, you will be. So Pitch Power Pro is a great place to go, first of all. And then Kitchen Play, the Facebook page, is another resource where I'm putting up all kinds of videos and content. And you'll see more about the workshop that I'm offering as well as the membership opening. And Kitchen Play is just as it sounds on Facebook. And again, you should be able to Facebook search for that. It's 2 words, Kitchen Play. And I think those are a really good start. And then that wait list that I mentioned of kitchen-play.com/bloggers that will also put you in the loop for receiving information from me going forward.
Well, Casey, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I had a really good time.
Oh, me too, Marley. It's always a delight to speak with you, and I really appreciate you giving me a chance to say my piece about pitching. I'm so excited to connect with your audience on this really valuable topic.
Thanks to Casey Benedict for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Be sure to sign up today for the Chopped Academy Google Analytics webinar so you can really understand the powerful tool that Google Analytics is and use that data to turn your site around. You can go to chopped.academy/webinar today. You'll love how accomplished you feel when you're running Google Analytics like a pro. Thanks to everyone for your support of the Chopped Podcast. Your reviews on iTunes and Stitcher really make a big impact. If you haven't done that already, it only takes a couple of seconds of your time, and it really helps the show out so much. You inspire me, and I hope today's show is helpful and inspirational to you as well. Now go forth and be your best you.